This work by Mozart is 200 plus years old, and it tells us a little bit about what is timeless in the human condition. It tells us about what people were thinking then, and also it tells us that many of us are still thinking the same things now. It's about love and forgiveness, and those things are timeless, and we need those things right now.
I think we're here to make people feel and to connect to people and to have a communion. And this is the history of humans. This is nature of humans.
We are definitely approaching this from a more feminist sort of standpoint. I've really enjoyed this process. It is very unique to have a completely female-led creative team, and it's had a really nice vibe within the rehearsal room.
Opera is a totally different animal, and it's a huge animal to tame in many, many ways because there are so many people involved in it.
When I first approach it, it's definitely a universal world that is inhabited by people who wear clothes. I'm very happy, that looks lovely. Something like this, for instance, has quite a big scenic element, so I certainly locked off a lot of the storytelling around the scenery, and then once I knew what that palette was, what the textures and the light was doing inside that, I could then concentrate on the specifics of the characters.
In the context of the plays, Figaro really does represent that driving force of the populace coming and rising over the aristocracy, actually creating a more communal view of what society could be. And in his role, he's a bit of a trickster, is able to circumvent all of society.
The Count is definitely the guy that everyone sort of is glad to see fail at the end, but he's also the guy at the end that's willing to go down on his knees and ask for forgiveness. We can learn a lot from that too. What
people tend to believe right now is that this world, the opera world, is for a more conservative or older audience, and this is not true.
The majesty of the piece is that any person, young or old, finds himself in maybe the first time one character. If you're fortunate enough to get to experience this opera multiple times, you'll realize that you're every character. I believe this is one of the great wisdom tales that's ever been told.
Like many artists, everything was put on hold.
It was devastating. It was the first time in 20 years of being a singer that I wasn't looking forward to a gig happening in a month or 3 months. It was 14 months.
Coming back not only to in-person performances in New Zealand, but having everything unmasked and everyone really looking out for the health and welfare of the entire population has just been really a joy.
First time in my life that I have a group around me that is all unified and we all work for the same thing.
The biggest benefit, especially with this production, is we're able to travel and tour around the country and see many different parts. So where most of the time we're centered on one opera house in one city, we get to see Auckland, we get to see Christchurch, we get to see Wellington, and that's something that's very rare in any company.
The New Zealand opera choruses, not just here in Auckland, but in Wellington and Christchurch, are really part of the musical fabric of your country. And this is a fantastic example of a really great piece of casting. People from all around the world, but also fantastic local artists, and I love that so much, this sense of the UN of the New Zealand opera.
I hope the audience takes away the idea that happiness comes in all sorts of shapes and forms.
For us and for the audience, the live performance is a vital thing. It's the most precious thing that we have. The energy that you do there and that you invest and whatever goes through in that room cannot be created in any other way.
It feels live, it feels necessary, it feels almost urgent.